So diversity ideology has had another run-in with reality, and it's going well. Of course, we shall begin just by mentioning, firstly, the premium content on the website, this first one being Europe's only indigenous ethnic group, because, of course, diversity ideology permits that there are no indigenous Europeans of any
they're
kind.
the only ones. The only groups that can be classified as indigenous are those that remind Americans of Native Americans.
Yeah, the Indians, which the Sami there. But there's a whole other thing going on in Britain right now. Whilst most of us were, watching the funeral or out the laying in state or wherever else, Leicester was having a whole different kind of festival. A festival of violence and fun in which the Hindus and the Muslims of Leicester, beef making up, I think, about 16% each.
Looks pretty peaceful to me.
Yeah,
I don't know about you.
Just engaging in, diversity, being strength, of course. I suppose we'll witness some of what is happening. And
look, there's not even any fires going on in this video.
Let's play.
They're throwing glass at us. They're throwing glass at us. They're throwing missiles. Wow, nearly got the police officer on the head. This is what the Hindu mobs are throwing. The Hindu mobs are throwing bottles in our direction. Look, again, another one. Wow.
Another sunny day in England.
I noticed a few phrases being thrown around in that video. Hindu mobs.
God save the king, I think I heard.
There might have been one muffled mixed in amongst there, but mainly it sounded like people shouting Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, a little bit. And if you really don't know, Hindus and Muslims in Leicester having a lovely time, all, very respectful for the death of the Queen. No, instead they're all just trying to kill each other for who cares. This is the thing. This is the consequence of importing the world, is you get the world's problems, of course. And this being, we imported lots of India and Pakistan, and what happens? Well, they brought the India and Pakistan problems here. And now they're fighting in Leicester. Great.
Leicester has been made the arena.
It's the new area of the Indio-Pakistan border. Presumably we'll have people peacocking down the sides of the divide.
Which is awful. I have family from Leicester, so I hope everyone's okay there.
Well, not the Hindus and Muslims, but everyone else seems to be just sort of staring. Like, that meme of the monkey, with the two monkeys fighting, and all the Simpsons characters just sort of stood around going, eh?
Yeah, trading money, making bets.
And this is an article on Spiked here from a friend of mine who wrote about what's going on here, just telling us multiculturalism turns violent. Certainly did. So to write in here that Leicester has long been the home of a sizable Muslim and Hindu populations, and up until recently, with some exceptions, they have lived along one another in relative harmony.
There's a lot of conditional factors being put in here. Some exceptions, relative harmony.
Yeah, there's that. And despite the international tensions between Pakistan and India, the two countries and most of Leicester's Muslim and Hindus hail from family connections back in their home country. And on the 28th of August, all of that changed because there was a cricket match. Because, of course, there was. I mean, I do love how cricket got sent around the world. Now, we don't really care about it, but the Indian Pakistanis deeply do.
So what we actually saw there was not a war of diversity, but instead the cricket hooligans out in force.
It's what it started as, but quickly spiraled out of control. So apparently there was a cricket match on that day. Afterwards, groups of Indian cricket supporters were captured on video walking through the streets of Belgrave, a suburb of Leicester, chanting an inflammatory slogan, Pakistan Murdabad, which means death to Pakistan. Some men proceeded to attack a man who they assumed to be Pakistani. I don't know, they just assumed. I mean, I have enough trouble telling the difference between most other, racial groups in the world. Like the difference between Muslim and Hindu Indians. I mean, good luck.
I guess they just knew.
They knew, apparently.
Maybe he was dressed in a way that suggested it.
Perhaps. In the ensuing violence, a police officer was assaulted. A video of these ugly scenes has widely disseminated on social media and has since triggered acts of retribution. In one unverified recording, groups of what appear to be Pakistani youths can be seen walking through Leicester shouting Modi Kutta, referring to India's Prime Minister Modi as a dog, and Long Live Pakistan, as well as Allahu Akbar, of course. And the other side also doing their, bottle thrones, as you do on an evening. And in another, a gang of apparently... Oh, sorry, just read that one. Oh, no, I didn't. A gang of Pakistani youths, a whole different gang, brandishing knives, shown attacking cars and property, in which one Indian activist has claimed is evidence of an organised attack on the Hindu community there. The escalation of tensions between the two communities has clearly worried the authorities. On Tuesday last week, Leicester Police was authorised to use the dispersal and stop and search powers in an attempt to quell the unrest. On the same day, an emergency meeting was held between the representative of Leicester's Hindu and Muslim communities. Don't know what that looks like. Since then, police patrols have continued in the areas affected, but further disturbances are still being reported. Fantastic. I love it. When I do love, you import the world, you get its problems. But it's to what extent? All of it. Absolutely all of it. I did see a lot of responses from people being like, maybe this has something to do with religious tensions.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Ooh, very, very incisive right there.
I saw a lot of people saying, whoa, it's not religious tensions or racial tensions. No. It's national tensions, very different. It's just like Poland and Germany.
Completely different, yes.
What was Pakistan founded for? To be a Muslim state, separate from the Indians, who were going to be Hindus. And, well, they've now become Hindu nationalists with the BJP. Yeah. Great.
How much longer must we play host to these conflicts? How much longer must our political class just keep making excuses while people suffer in the street?
Until it's on their street. That's fundamentally the truth, isn't it?
Well, that'll be what we'll find out next segment, certainly.
Yeah, because I remember covering, because of course we have a load of embassies in London, and there are different groups of who cares, different groups all over the world who are in conflict for who cares reasons. And I remember Carl covering once, there were different groups of Afghanis fighting outside the Afghani embassy in London, because one of them was Shia, one of them was Sunni. It was just like, God, I could not give a crap about your stupid desert squabbles. I mean, I don't care when it's in your own country, I really don't care when it's in our country. And the thing is, you do get reminded constantly, it's like, yeah, all of you people, legally, of course, it's a different situation, but I mean, you are morally on someone else's land here, and at their privilege, and having your weird sectarian violence.
Oh, they recognise that. They recognise that. Some of them from certain communities, from Pakistan and other such places, are actively proud of the fact that they're coming over here and soiling our land with their conflicts.
Well, that's the thing. It's not our land anymore, is it? That's not
the
how
problem.
they see it. They see it as Muslim land now. The Muslim area of Leicester in which you're going to have your fights. I was like, Allahu Akbar, I guess. Don't know what else to say. He writes in here, it seems that religious and nationalist conflicts emanating from the Indian subcontinent are now being played on Britain's streets. Yeah. These disturbing developments cannot but raise serious questions about multiculturalism, which even David Cameron, 10 years ago, said was a complete failure. 10 years on.
Well, it's not like you can
Still
point to any evidence of multiculturalism succeeding. Or at least not from those sorts of communities, integrating with our communities, or failing to integrate.
The far right. The far right is very diverse.
This is true. This is actually true. See,
the only example I can think of.
When everybody is racist, they're on even ground to one another.
If you haven't seen J-Reg's video about this, so do go and have a look at it. It's just like, oh yeah, you have a racist from India and a racist from South America and a racist from Sweden, and they're actually all butts.
Yeah, because they understand that they don't care about each other's ethnic or whatever problems, but they want to be allowed to not care at a distance.
Yeah, I think that's probably the only version that's ever worked. Apart from that, well, every Prime Minister and President has said it has failed in their own countries, so there's that. After all, it is thanks to decades' worth of multicultural policies that ethnic minorities have come to see themselves as fundamentally different from, and in some cases, opposed to other groups in British society. I do take conflict with that sentence. It's like, it wasn't the multicultural policies that did that. I'm pretty sure the long, deep divisions between Hindus and Muslims in the subcontinent.
No, it's because we're not giving them enough government benefits, Callum.
No, but it's like the idea that the multicultural policies did that. I'm like, hey, bro, I think you guys handled that on your own. We didn't need to intervene on that one. But whatever. The violent altercations in Leicester should be seen not as a one-off. After all, we have seen other religious and geopolitical conflicts from outside the UK, such as that between Israel and Palestine, play out on our streets very recently. Last year, for example, a group of Muslim men drove a convoy of cars festooned with Palestinian flags through the predominantly Jewish area of London, shouting, "F the Jews and kill the Jews." I think those guys ended up getting community service. That's all. Most British people go to jail for doing that on the internet, never mind in real life in their neighbourhood.
Are you enriched yet, Callum?
I'm so enriched. It's fantastic.
Same.
There are yet more deets from this comings and goings of the new world.
Spill the tea.
Yeah, we have this link here. This is a guy who made a very good point. It was just like, here's the BBC reporting first. BBC reported that large numbers of people became involved in disorder in parts of East Leicester. Do we have a description?
Completely abstract people.
People did this. Women and men. of all kinds.
People do a lot of things. People do everything, you could almost say.
Can't believe people would do this. They described those involved as hundreds of people.
Won't somebody please think of the people?
Mainly men. Oh, we've narrowed it down. We have men now. So, it's Baz and the lads going Allahu Akbar as they bash each other up.
Leicester FC just having a normal one.
Yeah. No motive was explained, but the BBC did reveal that it was the latest series of disturbances following an India-Pakistan cricket match. Again, it might not be Indian Pakistanis. Could be anyone. People, perhaps, doing this. The police also reported there was footage of, quote, a man, no description given, pulling down a flag outside a religious building, no description of what religious building, in Milton Road. No communities involved in this, no idea which religious building, what religions, nothing. Just, I love it. I love the absolute lack of reporting of any news. Just local people do things.
Fight happened.
Move along.
Here's the weather.
Yeah. And if we go to the next thing here, we can just see the commentary on this. We have, firstly, Julie Hartley-Brewer, who is a writer, just saying the basic stock line, which most people do at this point. It's like, here we go, there's Leicester, there's the cultural enrichment we've heard so much about. Doesn't it look culturally enriching? There's all kinds of police officers now. Used to be no police.
Oh, wow. You barely even needed police presence on the streets to maintain peace and order.
No, you need it all the time.
Interestingly, this ties into something that Carl and I were talking about yesterday with the idea of the queue being a benchmark of civilization. The idea that you can get a load of strangers, potentially from different backgrounds, to stand all orderly in a line with one another and not push, not cut, not get into arguments, shows that you've got some kind of order in society, some kind of high trust. These people would not form a queue. They've formed a mob.
To be honest, I don't think you're going to have your street battles in queue form. But
It would be entertaining, though. Single file, gentlemen.
I suppose that is what dueling is.
Exactly.
Very
Yeah.
civilized. However, we have Dr. Shola over here. Sorry, Her Royal Highness Dr. Shola, who, of course, could not just, let the slide go of being told this is cultural enrichment. She decided to write out, what a racist statement. How? She's celebrating the cultural enrichment. I thought this was a good thing. Isn't this what we all wanted? Now she'll act like she didn't just say that British, Indian, and British Pakistani, Hindu and Muslim, as if people didn't know, she puts in brackets, do not culturally enrich our country. Is this? This is part of it. This is part of that exchange. So yeah, this is the cultural enrichment we're asking for.
They're rubbing our face in it. Okay, right. She's rubbing our face in it. The idea that, you see people from different ethnicities and different backgrounds almost rioting on the street and you don't think this is a good thing?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you, crazy Englishman? You must be racist. This is almost parody if I didn't know that she was serious.
Yeah. Although I do wonder what Her Royal Highness's views are in bringing this all to Nigeria.
One would think young white boys aren't in violent gangs running street battles because the media don't cover it. Well, it certainly doesn't seem to happen anywhere near as often.
All right, number one, yeah, the numbers, please. Number two, did we import all those white boys, Shola? Did we import them all from Pakistan? No, funnily enough, homegrown, crime
Also,
is homegrown.
Point 3, just to make it even clearer, a lot of the footage that you get from these sorts of things, certainly the ones that we got in Leicester, are taken from people out in the street with the camera phones, posting it on Twitter. If it was such an epidemic of these young white boys, we would still have all the footage. We wouldn't need the mainstream media to cover it.
Not to mention if it was little white boys attacking brown boys. Even if there's no racial element, it's just rival gangs. It would instantly be like, well, hate crime's on the rise, which you're happy to gin up. If we go to the next one here, we of course have His Majesty the King as well, coming out and saying that we do need to protect the diversity of their country. I'm not even joking. Here's a speech from him. King Charles welcomed leaders of faiths to Buckingham Palace, where he told them it was his duty to protect the diversity of our country, a space for faith, at the same time that this was taking place.
So protect them from each other?
Yes.
That's the only logical answer.
The only reason for the English people existing is to separate the foreigners from one another.
We could go even further and separate them from this country, separate them to their lands of origin, perhaps.
They'd be killing each other in foreign lands, and we can't have that.
Oh, no, we would have to intervene in that. We'd have to send massive aid packages over if it was in foreign lands, so we might as well waste our money here instead.
Yeah, I don't really get the point in the speech. I mean, again, this just seems like barging into politics for no goddamn good reason. And in this case, it's into, well, race politics, and well, race war politics as it happens to be taking
He
place.
said that he was going to shut up when he took the throne. Please,
No.
Charles.
Because, I mean, those people, I mean, he probably does think this is an apolitical statement. We should protect the diversity of our country, because diversity is our strength.
I suppose so, yes. He's probably surrounded by advisors and people who eat all of this up.
Yeah. You want to see more of that strength? Well, we can. If we go to the next link here, we can see burning a Hindu flag, full strength, of course. As we burn this flag, we gain more strength, because diversity is increasing. I don't know what to say. It's just endless nonsense. There are endless videos of things taking place. There's also a lot of fake videos and fake news floating around this, as you might imagine. Some people started saying that, what was it, some Hindus had kidnapped a Pakistani girl.
Oh, I'd been hearing about this. Well,
Yeah.
not true?
Didn't happen. The police confirmed that it was fake news. Although, could you imagine if a bunch of Pakistani men kidnapped, English girls, and then who knows what might have happened? Anyway, there's
I'm
also
sure the police would have been right on that.
Yeah, the person here makes a good point, which is, will the police treat this burning of some Hindu flag as a hate crime, or will they let them get away with it like they always have with the grooming gangs? Which, yeah, they probably will. It's diversity on diversity crime. Where's the hate crime? I mean, that really is how the police think. Yeah, I can see the individual saying Britain first there, which, from Feraz Paravis.
That's a good sign to me,
As British nationalist, I don't know. We'll go to the next one here, because we can also see just some other hilarity, as people point out. You have Martin here. It's like, okay, well, I mean, if this was, Christian, white, working class lads doing this to a mosque, I mean, the whole country would be to a standstill instantly. Whereas, this happens to a Hindu temple where some Muslims, we just go, well, it's diversity on diversity violence.
Yeah, I mean, if
Can't tell the difference.
Like I said, if it was white Christian people doing this, if it was the natives doing this, we would all have state-mandated diversity training for fortnight.
Yeah, we'd all have to sing about how X lives matter for another 3 years. Anyway, there's also just one more out of this, as we can see some English chaps on the jolly, because of course I suppose the natural urge is to be like, well, Islamic people being Islamic. And, yeah, Islamic people are Islamic. But what is interesting, or at least more rare for us in Britain, is to see Hindus being incredibly Hindu, to say the least, at least acting like some people want them to. And we can see some chaps out here marching in the, uniform of peace, I'm going to say, using their COVID masks as balaclavas. Let's play this chip of some English chaps just going out for a jolly.
The Hindu, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah. You know, hear what they're saying?
Yeah.
You know how we say Allah Akbar, basically they've got their own chant. What, and they're allowed to do this?
I love it.
Brilliant.
I love how the lady in the car is like, oh, how we say Allahu Akbar, as if she's talking to the whole scene, being like, how we do this sometimes.
And then she's also complaining, and they're allowed to do this, as if, we're not allowed to get away with anything in this country.
Boy, look up a long list of news headlines if you're confused by that statement. But we'll go to the next series of just things that have taken place, of course. We have some video footage here from Voice of Wales, of course, of a cut and bloodied Hindu being taunted after being attacked by Muslims in Leicester. We saw earlier the Muslims being standing there getting bottles thrown at them. Because the next one, we also have the fact that someone mentioning it's not just a minority. I love this guy. He's a Muslim chap who's like, oh my god, look, it's not just a minority of the Hindus. It's quite a lot of them are doing this sort of thing. It's like, yeah. You remember another kind of narrative? Don't worry, it's just a minority of a certain community. It'll never be a significant amount of Islam. No. Yeah, it's just, there is a beautiful kind of, what is it, Schadenfreude? I am getting out some of this.
Yep.
Where I see people being like, oh my god, this is happening to the Muslim community by the Hindus. It's like, yeah, imagine if that happened to another group in this country by another group. It would be unbearable, wouldn't it? It must be able to understandable, the response. I know, we'll end this off with the best part of all of this. The local MP. My favourite MP. Claudia Webb.
Your crush.
It had to be here, didn't it? It had to be with Claudia Webb. People who don't know, she's an Islamo leftist who ended up going to court for threatening to throw acid in a woman's face, and the court did not find her innocent, and so give her a very small conviction because she's an MP, so she gets away with it. Her lesson from that is that she's learnt nothing and is just like doubling down on being insane. Her response to all of this was saying Leicester is a shining example of how people from different cultures can live together side by side. Our diversity is what makes Leicester special. We are the city where minorities make up the majority, and we are richer for this vibrant exchange of cultures. I love the exchange actually being glass bottles being thrown at each other.
I think her hand must have slipped because she put vibrant exchange instead of violent exchange of cultures.
Autocorrect.
Yeah, it happens, Claudia, I understand.
There is also more tweets from her, which also have not aged very well. This is in direct response, again, I just love it.
I don't think anything she does has ever aged well at all.
Screeching about diversity. I am incredibly proud of our wonderful, diverse home. This is after all this footage has come out. This isn't before. She's like, oh man, look at this. Diversity is our strength. Okay.
She's so proud.
Like,
she's so proud of it. Like, she's watching people beat in the street and she's standing at the side going, yeah, get more.
Yeah, well, she wants the race war, presumably. I don't know what else she wants. But we must not take tolerance and multiculturalism for granted. The right for different communities and cultures to live side by side has been fought for by generations of struggle, blah, 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 blah. But I can't get over, she still stood there telling us, diversity is our strength. Diversity is a strength. And I was like, there's people being killed around you.
People like Claudia, she thinks that it's some kind of incantation. If I just say it enough, the magic will be true. It's not like the English magic, sadly. If you believe in it, it will be true. It just doesn't work.
No. Some things are more true than the magic, and one of them is that India and Pakistan are going to forever be at war, apparently. And
I'm happy for them to be at war constantly, as long as it's not in our cities.
Instead it is. But there we have it. Diversity turning on itself, and the MP saying, isn't this wonderful? If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series, this one on Harold Hardrada between Carl and Bo. If you want to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.